Talent and the Future of Investment, an African Perspective. This session is moderated by John Defterios from APCO. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panel.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm John Defterios. I'm delighted to be doing this session. I had a chance to listen to the mid-morning session with the leaders of Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, and Botswana with Tucker Carlson, and the conversation was kind of dominated by democracies, the role of China in Africa, employment for youth, keeping them on the continent, all very valid points. But if you want to understand this inflection point we're in right now, we have Africa with the world's fastest growing population, a very youthful population that needs jobs, of course, an abundance of natural resources, tourism destinations, a digital revolution taking place, but sorely in need of investment. Just to provide some context, of the $1.6 trillion that went into FDI in 2025, $60 billion, around 4 to 5% has been the top, went to Africa. And knowing the capabilities of the continent, we're trying to discuss here what's going to unlock that money in the future. It's great to have the president of Tanzania, the prime minister of Mozambique, and Dr. Akin, who is served as president of the African Development Bank, and we had a chance to meet as he was retiring. And we had said to him, what do you plan to do if you're retiring? He says, I'm going to make sure there's money in Africa for growth. Yeah. So you're a disciple of that. So it's great to have you. And we're going to tackle this issue of reforms, right? What's needed to actually truly have money from the private sector go in. I think it's worth noting, by the way, in the last 3 years alone, this country, the United Arab Emirates, is the #1 investor into Africa. And by the way, for context, both Tanzania and Mozambique have been getting more than their fair share of money of that $60 billion, but that's just not enough. So, Dr. Adesina, number one, you're the one that brought us together. There was an Africa dinner last night with 4 heads of state, and you were, I would say, banging the drum, saying this is the decade at this inflection point where we have to go from aid to private sector capital. In your view, why is it important now? And is the time right, and are the reforms in place? Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, John. I'm delighted. First, let me thank the Excellencies for being here yesterday for the event that we had. First and foremost, I don't really believe that Africa should ever develop with aid, because when you talk about aid, it's almost as if you have a walking stick and it keeps going down and you're going to just simply fall over, right? And so that's not the way in which you're going to really develop. But we have to look at Africa not from an aid perspective, from an investment perspective. And let me tell you why I believe so much in Africa. First is that we take a look at the real GDP growth rates that have been projected by IMF. This year, Africa will grow at roughly 4%. And at 4%, it has the highest growth rate in the world, of all regions of the world. But not only that, something else to pay attention to is that for the first time ever, Africa will maintain that real GDP growth rate as the best in the world for the next 4 consecutive years. So that is not a blip. That is not some kind of cyclical noise. That is something that tells you that this is structural momentum that we are talking about, that is powering the growth. And you can understand why. Macroeconomic stabilization is working better on the continent. Fiscal consolidation is working. A lot more investment in terms of attracting investment, investing in infrastructure, which is leading to productivity growth, and all of that is going on. So that is something to pay attention to. Secondly, is that if you look at global capital, John, you see that quite a lot of that from MTN, you have BlackRock, and you have Vanguard that are investing in it. You have Dangote, for example, which is the largest industrial conglomerate that we have in Africa in terms of cement. You have Safaricom, which is the world's largest mobile company in terms of mobile money. And you look also at Jumia, which is now listed on the New York Stock Exchange inside of fintech. So that tells you that Africa here is not just about promise, okay? Africa is about portfolio. These portfolios are working. Now, look at what is happening for those that are investing in Africa. In the last 5 years, the performance of infrastructure assets and also other real assets is probably giving about low teens to mid-teens in terms of returns. Now, that is important to the extent that it's also not correlated with public assets globally. So that tells you that Africa, right, it's really more exciting for people to look at. And finally, so essentially Africa is fantastic. Finally, let's talk about minerals, metals, and all the things. I'm sure their excellencies are going to talk about this particular issue. John, we have $6 trillion, whether you're talking about lithium, cobalt, manganese, chromium, you're talking about rare earth and all of these things, $6 trillion. When you got $6 trillion, what are you going to do with aid? That $6 trillion, we have to turn that into real assets for ourselves, unlock those assets. That's how we are going to really develop. So the point I want to say is, we are here in UAE, they invest a lot in AI. So if you're doing AI, if you are doing energy, if you're doing agriculture, Madam President will talk about her great work on agriculture. Africa is where it is. So Africa is not aid. Africa is about alpha. It's about, this is the region of the world that you are going to have the highest return. And so I'm very, very confident about that. And therefore, I believe that pay attention to Africa. That's where the alpha is.
Okay, and we're going to drill down here on the role of development banks. Yeah, absolutely the case. Thank you for that. The role of development banks in the region, the global development banks, currency guarantees, how to exit with profits in our next round with you. Before we go further, I call on President Hassan. Prime Minister Levy is going to be speaking in Portuguese. She understands my English, which I'm very pleased about. But she prefers, because we're talking about investment and we have investors in the audience, to go to her mother tongue, which I fully understand. The English translation, I know, is on number 1, and Portuguese is on 6, but I think we're going to have Arabic also in translation as well. So please grab your devices. President Hassan, I talked about the $60 billion. It's not a huge sum for Africa last year, but you pulled in, as a country, $11 billion. Last year, you had 3 mineral resource deals take place. For those who follow energy, and I'm one of them, you have a $42 billion deal pending for LNG, which is a monster, with ExxonMobil, Equinor, Shell, and a regional partner as well. What reforms have you already done to attract that capital? And you were saying that tourism makes up 17% of your economy. It's been very robust. You're the former Minister of Tourism. But what reforms are in place now to attract investment, and the guarantees you're giving, and what do you want to do next to entice even more investment, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me in this panel. Going back to your question, that what reforms have you been taking to invite more investment in the country? First of all, we thought we have to create a conducive business environment in the country. So we had to change our policies, laws and regulations to make them more attractive to the investors to come in the country. But number 2, we had to have policy consistency, reliable policy, consistency in our policies. That's what we have done. But again, building the necessary investment infrastructure, like the physical infrastructure. We've been working hard in constructing the standard gauge railway. It's about 2,100 kilometers connecting to Burundi, and then it will connect to DRC. And we think that's a major route which can be used from Dar es Salaam port to wherever in the region.
It's very important for the DRC to unlock its mineral resources
yes,
as well, right?
Yes, yes.
That's a major infrastructure project, by the way.
Yes,
the length and the scale you're talking
about. And Tanzania is bordering 8 countries. So we have to make sure we are getting through all 8 countries. So physical infrastructure, roads, railway. But then, Tanzania is sharing 3 major lakes, Lake Victoria, Lake Nyasa, and Lake Tanganyika. And we have major ports in all those lakes, plus the ports in Indian Ocean. We are surrounded, we have a very big stretch of Indian Ocean where we have 4 major ports. Dar es Salaam ports, which is the main gate. But again, we have Mtwara port to the south of Tanzania, and then we have Tanga port to the north. And we're trying to connect these ports to other areas of Tanzania by railway so that we can transport the stocks which are coming to Tanzania, going to the neighboring countries.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Were you raising the money for these very large infrastructure projects? They're sizable.
Yeah, of course, we have been working closely with the African Development Bank during when Adesina was a president of the bank, but even before. And we are working very well with the World Bank, plus other funds in the Gulf, the OPEC Fund, the Abu Dhabi Fund, the ADEX, Abu Dhabi Export Fund. So we are exploring from different funds. So another area, so let me say that in principle, the basic infrastructure for investment growth is already laid in Tanzania. Already laid, and having done that, we have improved the number of projects registered in the country. By 2018, we had around 250 projects, FDIs, in the country. But till 2024, we have registered 970-something projects in the country. And that's from $3.8 billion. And now we have close to $12 billion.
Interesting.
So that's
you did lay out
the result of the
roll out the carpet for those investors to come in. So I'll park it there with you for just a moment because we're a little bit tight on time, and I'm going to bring in Prime Minister Levy.